Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is once again time for the shop tour. So a couple things you might notice about me today. I am growing this throwback goatee. I was wearing a goatee back in 2006 when I won my first national championship. It did not have all this gray in it back then, but I decided to do a bit of a throwback this year, and so I'm bringing that back out again. The other thing that you're going to notice is my head got all beat up over this week, and one of my tips of the day is going to be this. So I was pulling a transmission out of an '02 Miata, and under the front of those things, under the transmission, there's this big steel under tray that's held in by 4 bolts and 2 nuts. Well, the 2 rearward bolts, that under tray actually slips on. So I pulled the front 2, the middle 2, and when I released the last of the back 2, that whole thing came crashing down onto my head, and that was a few days ago, and you can see how it looks even today. So be careful of the rear slotted attachment points on an '02 Miata. I knew that it was there, I just wasn't paying attention. So anyway, those are the 2 things different about this week. It is September 15th. Fair warning for all of you, there will be no shop tours for the next 2 weeks. Next Thursday we'll be leaving to go to the runoffs. Thursday after that we'll be at the runoffs. So there will be no shop tours for the next 2 weeks. However, I'm going to attempt to do some YouTube live videos at the track, as well as gaining footage at the track for a post runoffs video, which I always try and do, because there's always good stories after the runoffs, always good stuff. In the meantime, shop tour time. So last week you saw that there was a pile of stuff on my secondary bench over here. I've kind of unpacked everything. This is for a guy with a little turbo engine that runs down at Hallett now and then, and he provided a bunch of parts and pieces, most of which are not going to be able to work, but everything's kind of specking out. Just kind of working on the block, waiting on some bearings now, since the bearings that were provided were wrong. And I'm going to attempt to get this together so he can pick it up before I leave next Thursday. So it's a bit of a, I don't want to ever call it a slam together engine, because I really only like to build quality engines, but I'm inspecting everything. He did have someone else do the cylinder head, but I'll just be putting that on. So can't really put my stamp of approval on it 100%, but pretty close. So not too bad. As you can see, Steven Simon's rolling chassis is sitting here on the cart. So over the weekend I'm going to be loading this up onto the trailer, the open trailer, because it's going to be going to the powder coater next week to get powder coated while I'm gone at the runoffs. So lots of little details went into this chassis build. We'll go over a couple of them right now. The rule in production is that these intrusion bars have to be 6 inches below. They can't be further than 6 inches below the main hoop. So we've got our main hoop here. These are right at 6 inches, but you do have to have a center brace to span the main hoop as well. There's 2 different ways you can do it. You can actually run a diagonal from one back brace down to the other. I actually don't prefer to do it that way. I think that having a brace in the plane of the main hoop is actually stronger, so that's how I like to do it. You do have 1 extra bar in the wind when you do that, but it just makes the main hoop so much stronger. So a few other items here that I did on this particular one. It is an FIA seat that Steven's going to be using, but I wanted to utilize just a pad here so that his seat will sit against it. I'm not actually going to attach the seat to this pad, but in a rearward impact, this would help support the seat itself. The other thing that I installed here, as you can see, are some guides for the seat, for the belts themselves. Sometimes, especially when you get close to a radius, that belt can tend to slip. So these will hold the belts in place. And something that I always do when I'm working on a roll cage is if I'm going to get a bar close to the chassis, I will weld it in. So I've welded this sidebar in here, and I've welded this sidebar into the chassis here. You probably saw it weeks ago when I had the main hoop in, but I also tied the main hoop in here. So these little tabs here for the windscreen that will run across, pick up here, meet over there. And in this particular build, we're going to be installing an AIM MXL2, which fits right here with his steering wheel so he can see right through it. And then we've got this nice carbon fiber cover that will go right here, which will have everything in it, from the master switch to all of the regular switches, air fuel gauge, the pull for the fire system. This is a large enough panel that we can get all of that in, utilized in one panel while staying away from the shifter, which will be right here. But I like having the driver to be able to get to everything really easily. A lot of cars you'll see the master switches are way over on the side and the driver can't get to it. While someone from the outside can get to it, that's great, but generally the driver needs to be able to turn that master switch off easily. So we got a little mirror mount right here for the mirror. If you guys watched the video where I was fitting Steven into the car, this is where I was able to utilize all of those measurements and actually bring it to fruition so that he will fit into this car properly. And wait until you see it when it comes back from the powder coater. It's going to be beautiful. So in the meantime, I've been able to, the only reason that this lift is up right now is because after I pulled Steven's chassis off of it, it was a complete disaster around the whole area. So as you can see, I've got this all cleaned up over here. All of the machines are back over here because when I go to drop off Steven's car at the powder coater, I'm going to be picking up a new chassis for Mark Webber, who's going to be doing the same thing. So in the meantime, Doug Weaver's car is just sitting here in limbo. I don't know that I'm going to get a chance to work on it before the runoffs, but you never know. We'll see. And I do know that Eric Prill is completely done. So we've dynoed the car. He's got it all corner weighted and scaled. The car is 100% looking good and ready to go. I think Eric's got a really good chance again this year. He's perennially been one of the favorites when it comes to F production, and has won a couple of championships himself, but looks like he's got the car all together and ready to rock and roll for his test day. So of course he's part of the SCCA executive team, and so they will be heading off to the runoffs, actually I believe this Sunday. So he'll be loading up probably on Saturday and heading towards Virginia, only about a 22-hour tow if you're pulling a race trailer. So in other good news, the BMW is completely done. Cleaned up 100%, dyno tuned beautifully. Once again, you'll see all of the cars of this month on the dyno in our dyno mashup post runoffs. But the car's looking good. Shout out to the Bowmans out of Kansas City who came up with this spare transmission for me. I haven't had a spare transmission for this car since I've owned it, and they actually run a Z3 that they drift, and came up with this transmission that I bought from them. So now I've got a good spare. So since now I have a spare, now I won't need it, right? Which is always a good thing. And of course I've got another couple of rear trailing arms that I'm final prepping as spares. If you've been paying attention this year, you know that the lack of having spare trailing arms kind of bit me this year. So I've got my spares getting cleaned up, new bearings installed, getting ready to go load up for the runoffs. So basically when it comes to runoffs time, I take everything that goes with the car and I will pack it in there, because if you don't take it and it's sitting at home, it's going to do you no good. So tip of the day, besides not smashing your head, pack up everything that you possibly can if you're going to the runoffs, because you might need it. And you know what else? Someone might come by your paddock area and need something that you can loan them as well, which is also a good thing. So this is going to be a bit of a farewell for a couple weeks, guys. Like I said, no shop tours for the next couple of weeks. It is time to go to the runoffs, and I am so ready to try and defend my championship again. So really looking forward to that. Hope I see a bunch of you there next weekend and throughout the week after that. And for those of you that are racing, good luck if I don't get to talk to you. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people watching. If you go on to scca.com, there will be a link for the runoffs right on the front page, and you can follow. There's going to be audio and video throughout the week through all of the qualifying sessions, and then there will be live video with commentation and full video throughout the track. They actually do a really good job. So that'll be it starts October 31st, and then September 30. Okay, let me get this right. What month is it? September 31st is the first race. October 1st and 2nd are the second 2 days of racing. 28 races. So I'm racing on Friday, which is September 31st, which I always enjoy to be racing on the first day, so then the next 2 days I can relax and hopefully do some celebrating. We'll see what happens. But see you guys there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in a couple weeks for a recap. Take care, guys.